channel. You're watching Unbiased Magic Reviews, the most objective magic review channel here on YouTube. Thanks so much for tuning in, guys. Today I am reviewing Volume 2 of Allan Ackerman's All-In books. Now, it's been a hot minute since I did a review, and I apologize. I was away on vacation, but if you like the review, if you like this material, I would urge you to subscribe to the channel because that shows me that you're interested in this material. If I don't see interest, then I'm not motivated to do reviews like this. And you guys know that I'm the only one doing real deep dives on this type of material. Anyway, this review is going to follow the same format as my last one, where I'm going to be going over those pieces that I've handpicked out after studying these books for over a year, road testing this material. You won't be surprised probably that most of the effects that I've picked out are ones that are not too procedure heavy, don't have extensive setups, or use lots of weird gaff cards that you're not going to be carrying with you. I want to just get out of the way this question that people have asked me, because a lot of people have asked me, is this the best of Allan Ackerman? Like, is this just what I need to study, just these books? And the truth is that no, the majority of his best material is in these books, but there are a number of pieces that I thought should have been part of this and they weren't. And that may be because Allan Ackerman has just such a wide breadth of material that he couldn't include everything, or possibly just my opinion, right? For those of you that are not familiar with the magic of Allan Ackerman, I would say his magic most closely resembles that of Di Vernon, Ed Marlowe, Jack Carpenter, and probably Darwin Ortiz. And the reason is because his magic is sleight of hand with purpose, clear plots with direct effects, well-structured routines, well-structured, where usually one phase sets up the second phase, right? And so the difficulty level of this material is anywhere from absolute beginner self-working to expert level, you know, where you have to do bottom dealing and stuff like that. That's the wide range that you're going to find here. So there's a little bit of something for everyone. And if you're that type of magician where somebody hands you a deck of cards and says, show me something, and you have to revert back to your, old ACR routine because you can't think of anything to perform, then this is the type of material you want to check out. You want to check out this review because there's so much stuff I'm going over here that you'll be able to immediately put into your repertoire and just blow people away with. That's why you're watching this review. So let's start out with the first chapter, right? The first chapter has 30 different sleights, techniques, and concepts, right? The entire book, I think, is like 211 pages. And I'm just going to go over those that I found to be the most useful, right? So starting out with the first one, we have the bull shift, right? The bull shift, this is a technique where you show the 4 kings, you put them in 4 different parts of the deck, you push them in, and now they're on the bottom. That's it. Nice economy of motion. It's great. It looks very convincing, and it's something that you can use if you want to do an effect where your 4 of a kind is going to go somewhere else, right? I think you guys are going to like that a lot. The next technique or concept that I think you're going to like is called the new math addition. And this is a way of doing a switch out of like a 4 for 4 or even like a 2 for 2 or something like that. But I think it's primarily used for like 4 for 4, and it goes under the radar. The spectator will never see, they're never going to detect it, and it's all done openly right in front of them. It's great, it's really nice, and it's very fooling. So that's why I think you're going to like that one a lot. The next concept or technique that I found to be the most useful in this book was called the combination call. The combination call I found the most useful because there are many effects out there where you have to take out a 4 of a kind, but at the same time, you're going to call another 4 of a kind to the top of the deck. And this is done especially after you let the spectator shuffle the deck. You're going to take out a 4 of a kind, and yet you've already got under your control another 4 of a kind. And those of you that do effects like this know that the Hofsens or calls sometimes can be easily seen, Whereas this technique can be done right in front of the spectator. They can be burning your hands and they're not going to see it. They're not going to see it. It's very fooling, which is why I think you're going to like it a lot. The last technique from this chapter that I think you should take a look at is the buzz shuffle, or the bottom up zero shuffle. If you don't do a false in the hands shuffle, then this may be something you want to take a look at. It's very easy to learn. You'll learn it really quickly. I first saw it on his classic Ackerman DVD years ago, but it is very convincing because the spectator can see the cards interwoven right in their face, right up to the last second. So they're going to believe that the cards are really being shuffled, and it's not hard to learn. You will learn it in probably about 20 minutes and be able to use it. So those were the most valuable techniques and concepts in the first chapter. It ends with a bunch of different false counts. I like the mirage count. You might like a different one, but there's a lot of different counts at the very end of that chapter. I was also surprised that there were certain techniques he didn't include in these books, because if you studied Allan Ackerman's work, then you would learn that there's lots of techniques that he's come up with that are really good that he didn't put in these books. Like, I'll give you some examples, like Ackerman varies Kelly to bottom palm, even swing cut to bottom palm, very useful, very easy. He put the one-handed AB bottom palm in this book, and I think he should have just put the regular AB bottom palm, because I think it's a lot easier and it's just as effective. You can find the AB bottom palm on his Every Move a Move video. You can learn it there if you're interested in it. I think it's a lot easier to learn and something that you're going to use. There's so many more techniques and concepts he could have put in this book. Like, I'll give you another example, like slip shot. He could have put that in there. That's a nice way of cleaning up the zero shuffle, which he didn't include it. I think he probably should have, but that's my opinion, right? Anyway, those are the Sleights techniques and concepts I think you should pay attention to from this volume. And moving along, now we're going to get into those effects. I've handpicked 10 effects that we're going to go over, and then afterwards we're going to go over a couple of negatives from the book, an error that I found in the book, and then we're going to finish up this review with his Any Card at Any Number chapter. But we're going to start out now with those 10 effects that I've hand-picked out, and I'm going to try to put on the bottom of the video the difficulty level of each effect. Keep in mind this is my opinion, and keep in mind that I've tried to hand-pick effects for, you know, the reactions you get from the spectators and the likelihood you're going to use it, as well as, you know, if it's a good effect or not. It's like, has a lot to do with my own opinion from my own experience. So the first effect we're going to go over is Impromptu Breakaway, and as the name suggests, it's impromptu. This was first published in Allan Ackerman's lecture notes, How to Tame a Moose. And essentially this is a transposition effect, 4 jacks transpose with spectator selection. Essentially, you're going to put the 4 jacks in your pocket and they transpose with the person's selection. But the specifics of the effect are as follows. You're going to show them the 4 jacks. You're going to leave them face up on the table. Then you're going to either have 2 wild cards selected, or the spectator just points to 2 cards and you put them face down on the table. Now you put the jacks in your pocket. They see they're going in your pocket. You let them make a selection that they call out themselves. You tell them to remember that card. You put it on the table. You snap your fingers. Now all of those face down cards are jacks. You ribbon spread the deck, and there's a backwards jack in the middle, a face up jack in the middle. And now you can reach in your pocket and take out their selection that you told them to remember. That's the effect. As a bonus, for those of you that watch Allan Ackerman's YouTube channel, if you watch his performance of this effect, you'll see that he's included a second phase where now he takes out the 4 kings, clearly puts them in 4 different parts of the deck, like in the fan, and then just closes it up, and now the kings have gone to the pockets. So it's killer. It's killer. It's very visual and impossible. And watching that, you'll need to watch it a few times to really figure out the control, which is very clever, very, very clever. I don't think it's published anywhere, so if you want to learn it, you will need to reverse engineer it like how I have. But if you perform it, you'll see that the spectators are going to want to look through the entire deck because they're going to think that you're using extra kings, because when they see that the kings go in 4 different parts of that fan, and as you close it up all the way up into the end, they see the kings as you push them down into there, and now they're in your pockets. Like, it doesn't make sense. It just went right from the fan to your pockets. That just doesn't make sense to them. It's going to blow them away, which is why this effect really is colossal. The whole routine is great, and it's something you can do at the drop of a hat anytime you want to. That's the first effect. Moving along to the next effect, we have the Technicolor Splits. And for most of you, this may be your favorite effect in the book because it's like beginner level difficulty and it's the most visual effect in the book. You may even remember that when I did my review of Allan Ackerman's masterclass, I did mention it even though it wasn't part of his masterclass. It was published in his Card Theater book. And the reason why this is such an impossible effect is because you take out a deck and you have a spectator name any 4 of a kind that they like. You take those out and then you make 4 piles and you lose their 4 of a kind, 1 in each pile. Then you put those together and you take out a different colored deck to take the aces out. You put the aces on the table and you put the deck that has their 4 of a kind on top of it. You snap your fingers and spread the deck, and now those aces have redistributed to find their 4 of a kind. It's absolutely inexplicable to your spectators. It blows away any human being that has never seen it before. And like I said, it's like beginner level, which is why I think you guys are gonna like it a lot. I'm gonna show you guys my demo of it right now. I've been using it quite a bit, especially whenever I'm going to be doing anything that uses 2 decks of contrasting colors, because it's the perfect opener. It takes you like maybe 30 seconds for the setup to set up for it. Doesn't use really any difficult sleight of hand, so it's literally almost self-working, and it really will amaze people because it's so visual and you end squeaky clean. It just doesn't get any better than that, which is why this is really a card gem. So let me show you what it looks like. Take out the red deck and you tell the spectator or spectators you're going to have them make a couple of selections from this deck in a moment. If you have 4 people there, you can have each person name a card that they see, or you can have one person just name a 4 of a kind. So in this case, let's go with, I don't know, let's say that they go with like the 9s, for instance, just for argument's sake. So we'll just take out the 9s. Makes it very simple. Where's the other 9? Here it is. And you tell the spectator that in a moment we are going to lose these 9s back into the pack. And what we're going to do is very simple. I'm going to just cut the pack here, maybe in quarters like this. Try to make it about as even as possible. Not exactly as even as I would have liked, but that's good enough. Anyway, you have the spectator say stop somewhere, and you're going to put the first 9 into the pack. Have the next spectator say stop somewhere, or the same one, and the next 9 gets lost into the pack. And you get the idea. You do this with each one. They say stop somewhere. And then finally, the last spectator, you tell them say stop. They say stop. And the last one is lost. So now, of course, you have this nice display where you can say, look, there's no 9s on the top or the bottom, of course. We're going to take the blue deck, and actually what we're going to do is we're going to use the aces from this blue deck to find your 9s. So I'm going to take out the aces. Just keep me fair here as I go through here. So you go through there, and you can show them that there really is only 4 aces. They can see that. And say, look, just 4 aces. Here's what's interesting about this is that if I take the red pack and put it on top of those aces, just wait a moment or snap your fingers. Here's what's amazing. They have redistributed themselves throughout the pack. Now that's a very magical moment because your spectators are not going to be expecting that at all. That's going to be a big shock to them. And what's impressive is that not only have they located each one of the selections, but the suits match too. So the ace of clubs found the 9 of clubs, ace of hearts found the 9 of hearts, piece of spades, found the 9 of spades, and the diamonds match as well. So that's great. You could take the aces now, and you could return them to the blue deck where you got them from. You could take your red 9s and just add them back to the red deck, and that's it. You are squeaky clean. There is nothing to find. It is such a great opener. So I would urge you to check that out. You could see why I like it so much. The next effect is called a prelude to the collectors, and I absolutely love the effect. Use it all the time because it's from a shuffle deck in use. And it's a nice way of introducing a collector's effect to your spectators. For those interested, it was also in Card Theater. Let's take a look at it. The demo for Prelude to the Collectors. And I couldn't find any performance video of this online, which is why I'm making this quick demo. It is a crazy visual effect. Definitely one of my favorites from Volume 2 because it's from a shuffle deck in use, multiple spectators, super visual. So if you do any type of collector's effect, you should definitely consider this. Once your spectators have shuffled the deck as much as they want, you're going to tell them that you need 3 people to help you. And you're going to say, look, what we're going to do is this. I'm going to just take out the aces here. Where are they? Looks like they're all down here. So you say, we're going to take out the aces because we're going to use those in a moment. But I'm going to need you guys to help me out because I'm going to give you each a little packet of cards. What I want you to do is I want you to shuffle up your packet and look at and remember the top card of your packet. So since no one's here, I'm going to simulate a little shuffle of each of these packets. And they're going to remember the top card of each of their packets. So the first person, this will be the card they remember. Then you're going to take back their packet. Just give it a little shuffle like this. You're going to tell them, remember, try not to forget your card. Then the second person, this will be their card. You're going to take back theirs, and you're going to shuffle it into yours. And finally, the third person, this will be the card that they remember. You're going to take back their packet. Again, add it to the whole running packet here. Give it a couple of cuts, and then finally, we're going to shuffle the rest of the deck into it. So if there was any thought process of any card control, that'll be gone now. And now you're going to hand the deck to one of the spectators, and you're going to tell them that you want them to just start dealing the cards face down on the table. They can stop anywhere they want. So they'll deal some cards somewhere along the ways they'll stop. You'll tell them to put the 4 aces face up there and the rest of the deck on top. And now all you have to do is 1 Pharaoh shuffle. So this is easy peasy. Even if you've got a really old cruddy deck, it shouldn't be difficult to do because you've been practicing your Pharaoh. When you spread the deck and they see 3 cards face down in between those aces, it's like a no way moment. It's like no way. They're going to be in disbelief because that's impossible. It really is. So you're going to start with the third spectator. You're going to say, what was your card, right? You're going to take out that. And remember, it was that Queen of Diamonds. There you go. There's for the third spectator. Then you go to the second spectator. What was your card? They're going to, that 6 of spades. And then the first spectator, if you remember, it was a 9 of spades. And of course, it is a 9 of spades. So you could see how crazy visual the effect is. It's impossible. And now you're in a position where you can do any type of 4-ace card trick or even another collector's effect. So that's what the effect looks like. And again, if you don't already do a Pharaoh shuffle, then this is a great effect to practice your Pharaoh shuffle. The next effect is called an impromptu finesse the finessed. Kind of a weird name for an effect, but it's an effect where the aces vanish and go to your pockets. That's what it is. It's very direct, very clear. And as the name implies, it's impromptu, so it's from a shuffle deck in use. You guys know I love that. You're going to take out the 4 aces. You're going to have the spectator make 3 piles with the deck, and then you make one last pile. You put 1 ace on top of each pile. You snap your fingers, they're gone. Now they've gone to your pockets. As a kicker, the whole pack vanishes, so you're left with just the 4 aces. I would say it's like beginner intermediate level because it's really easy. It's not difficult at all. Even though it may sound difficult, it's not. I really like the effect a lot, and I think you're gonna like it too. The next effect is called Grandson of Tetradism, and this is a 2-phase impossible coincidence effect. I think a lot of you are gonna like it because it's extremely easy to perform, yet gets really strong reactions. And this was included on Allan Ackerman's masterclass lecture. And if you guys watched my interview with Allan Ackerman, he performed it for me on the interview. So I would urge you to go back and watch that if you haven't seen it, so you can see it, because it looks absolutely impossible, especially because the spectator can select any card they want out of the spread. You just divide the deck up into 3 piles and you show them how the cards are totally random. And then what you do is you start dealing the top card of each of the face down piles. And each time the cards are totally different until they all match. And then that's a coincidence. And then the remarkable coincidence is how the card that you isolated from the beginning, the random card that they selected, matches the other 3. So that's the basic effect. And then it's repeated a second time, where the second time the spectator deals out the piles. But it's basically the same exact effect. And I would urge you to go and watch the performance from my interview with Allan Ackerman if you're not familiar with it. But I think you guys are really going to like it a lot because it gets really good reactions. There is a setup involved, but it's so easy to learn if you don't already use it that it's not something that you're going to forget. The next effect is called 1002 Revisited, and this is an effect based off of an Alex Elmsey routine. It's an instantaneous ace assembly into the spectator's hands. I really like it a lot, especially because it can be done from a shuffle deck in use. It's not difficult. I would say it's like late beginner level. It's really easy to perform, and it uses a move from Allan Ackerman's All-In Volume 1 that I liked a lot and talked about a lot. So what you do is this: you show the spectator 4 aces, you put them on the table in a row, then you take 3 indifferent cards and you tell them you'll put them on top of whichever ace that they select. So you say, like, which ace do you want me to put these 3 on top of? Then you pick up that pile and you show them the ace that they selected, and then you put those cards in their hand and you snap your fingers and the other 3 aces are now gone and the spectator's holding all 4 aces. What I really liked was the economy of motion. Nothing is wasted, and it's very quick, direct, and hits like a hammer, which is why you're going to use it, as I always say. The next effect is called Almost Perfect Transposition, and this is a cleaned up version of another version that Allan Ackerman had published in Las Vegas Cardma. Here you really are only using 4 cards, and it's from a shuffle deck in use. What I really like about it is it's very easy to perform. This is beginner level, and it looks impossible, and it has a nice hook to it, which is that everybody understands the game of 21 and how the house always wins. And so the concept here is that you're changing a loser for a winner, because you show the spectator like a jack and a 6, and then you snap your fingers and they've turned into a jack and an ace right in front of them. Very quick. It's a nice little mini effect, but very hard hitting. I think you guys are going to like it. Moving along to the next effect, we have an ungaffed Ted. And this is Allan Ackerman's version of Double Thought. You know, the Double Thought card plot that's from ACAAN, where each person thinks of a card and you find the other person's card, they find your card. That's really the plot here. There are many versions that exist out there, and I think the reason he called it an ungaffed Ted was because his inspiration was a version that used a gaff deck from Ted Leslie. But like I said, there are many different versions that exist out there, and the contributions that Allan Ackerman has done with this effect is that because he's using a memorized stack, he doesn't have to clock the deck. And so because of that, there is a nice economy of the routine. The routine feels very carefree, and I liked the structure that he came up with. The structure was very clever for the routine because you're going to tell the spectator to think of any card. So this is not a selected card, it's a thought of card, which really makes this a real mentalism piece, because the spectator will think of a card freely, they'll spread to it, you tell them to just separate the deck there, look at their card, think about it, and then you tell them to just cut the packet that's on the table and just bury their pile into the middle of the packet that's on the table. You're going to do the same thing. Then you're going to think of a card and do the same procedure, and then you're going to have the spectator, you tell them, I'm going to send you my card mentally, send me yours. The spectator goes through the deck, takes out one card, puts it face down on the table that they think is your card, and you're going to do the same thing. And then you can tell the spectator what was your card. They're going to name it. You can show them that you got their card. Then you can tell them my card was, and they'll turn over the table of the card and find it. Again, the advantage of this version over many versions that exist out there is that you're not wasting a lot of time clocking the deck because you're using a memorized deck. The trade-off that I have with it is that you can't let the spectator shuffle the deck. That's the big trade-off. So personally, I have my own version where the spectator can shuffle the deck as much as they want, and that's because I'm using a principle that I haven't released yet to the Magic community, but that's me. If I didn't do that version, then I would definitely do this version by Allan Ackerman. If you are looking for a version that's really easy and looks really good, then I would refer you to check out my review that I did on marked deck effects, because I went over a version there that was really easy to learn, but you have to use a marked deck. But that is an ungaffed head. The next effect is back to Hierophant number 1. This is an open prediction effect where the spectator randomly thinks of a card. You're going to show them what you want them to do. You tell them to deal cards face up like this. Somewhere along the way, they'll deal a card face down. And you give them the deck and they do that. And of course, the face down card is their just randomly thought of card. It does use a memorized deck, and it's based off of the work of Marlowe from Hierophant. Allan Ackerman even talks about how the first trick that Ed Marlowe ever did for Allan Ackerman was a version of the open prediction plot. So that's kind of interesting too. But I think that if you're into the memorized deck, then this is going to be an effect that you may want to take a look at. It's like beginner level. The hard thing is just knowing the memorized stack. If you use a memorized stack, then this is child's play. It's absolutely easy to perform. All right, the last effect that I wanted to review out of the 10 that I handpicked was Allan Ackerman's impromptu searching for a thought. And you may remember that I did go over this effect when I went over his masterclass lecture, and by far it's my favorite effect in volume 2 of All In, as well as my favorite effect from his masterclass. So I'm going to show you guys the demo that I did then. I'm just going to play it here so you can see why I like the effect so much and why it's so hard hitting. This is my favorite effect on this masterclass, and I suspect it will be yours because of how easy it is to perform, how impossible it looks, and how just readily available it is, because it is from a shuffle deck in use. It could even be a borrowed shuffle deck in use. I think that Allan Ackerman has made vast improvements on Aaron Fisher's Search and Destroy with this version of the effect, and I really like how clean the displays look, and the pattern makes much more sense as it's a progressive sandwich, and you are showing them exactly the progression, and you're able to tell them how many cards are between the selections. So let me just show you guys a quick demonstration of what it looks like. Instead of having a selection made, you're going to just tell the person to think of a card. Just name any card. So we get, in this case, the 8 of clubs. So you tell them, all right, we're going to also use the red aces. Let's use the red aces as well. So what you're going to do is you're going to go through the deck. You're going to look for those red aces. You say, you know, oh, here we go. Here's our red aces. We're going to take those out. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put them here near the top and near the bottom. So that way there's a lot of cards in between them. Now I want you to just cut the deck. So you have the spectator cut the deck. And you tell them, imagine that those aces are coming together. Now imagine that there are, yes, I can sense that they're exactly 10 cards apart. Now this is a beautiful display here. You can cleanly move all the cards away that are not sandwiched in between them. Now you're going to pick this up and you're going to show the spectator. You can say, look, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Exactly 10 cards here in between them. Let's try again. Give it another cut. So the spectator is going to give the cards another cut. And you're going to say, imagine again that the aces are coming closer together. Make whatever noise you want. Now you can clearly show them that there is just one card sandwiched between those aces. And of course, it's not just any card. It has to be their selection. Of course, it's going to be their 8 of clubs, which is going to blow them away. So you could see how simple that is to perform and how impossible it looks. Again, the genius of Allan Ackerman, all of the moves are extremely well motivated. It doesn't look like you've done anything. It looks like the spectator did everything. It looks very magical. Let's take a look at a couple of the negatives that I found in volume 2 of All In. Obviously, the writing could have been much better. And just like in volume 1, a lot of these tricks were written in a way that you'll get lost while you're reading the explanation. But thankfully, most of these effects, there's a performance video on Allan Ackerman's YouTube channel that you can watch. Another thing I didn't like is that there are a number of effects that use a psychological fan force, which I thought is not really convincing. Like, I remember there's an effect called the power. There was another effect called mind reading trick, where you have to show the spectator a fan and tell them to think of a card, but you're only showing them like 3 or 4 cards because you're doing a tight fan. And to me, I just didn't like that. I would never use that. In terms of really the effects in the book that I thought, you know, either they just weren't good or I wouldn't use those. There's a number of those, but I'm going to touch on a few of those. The effect that he called revisiting Molly. This was a rehandling of Jack Carpenter stepping out with Molly. You may like the effect. There's an error in the text here, because in here he mentions that the version he's trying to correct was from Expert Portfolio number 1, but the problem is that that's not the version that's in Expert Portfolio number 1, because the version in Expert Portfolio number 1 uses 2 jokers. The version that he's talking about, that he cleaned up, is actually the version that's on volume 2 of The Magic of Jack Carpenter, where it's an impromptu version where you're using a 3 of hearts and you're passing it off as an ace. That's the version that he was trying to clean up, not the version that's in Expert Portfolio. And the reason why I still think that Jack Carpenter's version in Expert Portfolio is better is because there's more magic. There's more magic. It's more impossible. I just found it to be just a better version. And in Allan Ackerman's version, there's still a setup and you still have to use a joker. So it's really not impromptu. And if you forget the setup, then what are you going to do? And on top of that, Allan Ackerman added this shuffle sequence in the beginning, which I think is unnecessary, really. So for those reasons, I like the Jack Carpenter version better. I still think that his version in Expert Portfolio number 1 is really good, because when you watch them together, you'll see that the first phase of the effect of Allan Ackerman's version happens with the whole deck, with the 3 cards in the whole deck. I didn't like that, because this type of effect, the 3-card Monty, should be just 3 cards isolated. The deck isn't part of it. You see what I mean? By involving the deck, you know, it's no longer the 3-card Monty anymore, you know. Again, you could argue with me and say that it's fine or whatever. I mean, I think that it's perfectly workable the way it is, but I just think that the Jack Carpenter version is just superior. The other effect I wanted to touch on that I would say is a real negative in the book is the 10-card trick. And the reason why I say that is because I think Allan Ackerman was trying to solve a problem that didn't exist. So he restructured Edward Victor's 11-card trick, and I think by doing that, it didn't make it any better. And now you have to do 3 false counts instead of 2. I think that there's better versions that exist. The other issue too is that he doesn't teach you the false count. So you're not going to be able to use this. So it's absolutely worthless to you. If you read the book, you're going to be stuck, because he tells you to go to the Art of Astonishment, Volume 3, to learn the Francis Carlyle false count. The problem is that if you don't have that book, now there's nothing for you to do. You're done, right? For those interested, though, Allan Ackerman did teach the Francis Carlyle false count on his Classic Ackerman DVD. So if you can get your hands on that, then you can learn it there. But my recommendation is to learn Derek Dingle's version of the effect. because I think that Derek Dingle's solution for how to get rid of the extra cards it works perfect. Even if you don't like it exactly the way it is, you could tweak it a little bit and still get the same result, which is really pretty much what I've done. But I think Derek Dingle's variation of the Francis Carlisle false count is exquisite, because the spectators will never know. Even if you told them I'm doing a false count, they wouldn't be able to tell you where the false count is, because it's that good. And for those that are really interested in this effect, I would also tell you to check out Will Lane's Method for Miracles #6, because there's some nice tips in there too. But for those people that are not familiar with the effect, you tell the spectator to count out 11 cards, and then you tell them that you want them to deal like 6 cards in one hand and 5 in the other, but you say, wait, let me just make sure there's 11 cards here, and you start counting these cards. And the reason why this is so good is because there's an auditory component with each time that you count the cards, and you don't have to do it quickly either, which is great. Again, the effect I'm telling you guys to check out is Derek Dingle's fabulous jumping card trick. That's what you want to check out. Once you learn it, once you master the count, you've got a miracle at your hands that you could use anytime you want with any deck. Just tell the spectator, count out the cards, you're good to go. And it has a lot of funny moments built into it, because you tell the spectator to count out 11 cards in your hand, and then you tell them, you say, we're going to do something where I'm going to have you deal out cards in either hand of mine, but let's make sure we still have 11. You count the cards, there's only 10. So it's like, wait, there's only 10 cards here. So then you're like, here, give me an extra card. And again, you count them out nice and slow. They hear them, they see them. Oh wait, there's only 10, give me another one. So now you count out again for a third time. Again, there's only 10. Now you hand the cards to them and you tell them you count them out. They count them out, there's only 10. So it's like, what the heck? And by this point, the spectator's gonna start laughing. But then you say, here, give me 3 more. That makes 13. And if I give you 2 back, now I've got 11. You count them out again, except now you've got 13. So then you give them 2 back again. You count them out again. And again, you've only got 10. So this is the running gag throughout the whole effect. And then finally at the end, you just give up because you could never get 11 cards. But this is a classic of card magic that has stood the test of time the way it is. And in my time studying this, performing it, practicing it, there is no better version than Derek Dingle's version that exists. And that's why I would recommend you guys not only to learn his version, but also his variation of the false count, because it's imperceptible, even done slowly. If you get a chance to watch him do it, him perform it, there's some videos of Derek Dingle performing it. It's amazing. It's just so much fun to watch. But those really are the big negatives I wanted to go over. Now let's take a look at the last chapter of the book. So we come to the end of the book, and the last chapter is dedicated to Allan Ackerman's Any Card at Any Number effect, which is called Anyone, Anywhere, as well as a couple of variations here in the back. There's 4 more effects that are variations on that theme. And the name Anyone, Anywhere should make sense because it's anyone, any card, anywhere, any position. The effect was first published in Allan Ackerman's lecture notes called Al Cardpone back in 1996. It was part of his Las Vegas Blues lecture, and he borrowed an idea from Ken Krenzel and applied it to the memorized deck. So he was the first person to do that. He also improved what was like a box shift, where Ken Krenzel was using a box where the side was completely torn off. It didn't have a side. And so really Allan Ackerman was the first person that pioneered the box shift that we all know today, the one that Aussie Wind has made popular. And I think he also mentions that Ray Cosby also had come up with it back then as well. He also had some work on that box shift. So really talking about Aussie Wind's version of the Any Card, Any Number effect too, I would say it's a minor variation of Allan Ackerman's effect, because they both are almost identical, other than Allan Ackerman's version, you're adding the numbers together. In Aussie Wind's version, you're subtracting them. That's really the only difference. But other than that, they are virtually almost the same effect. And The any card, any number effect is very controversial. You guys will find that there are a lot of magicians that will say that spectators find the effect boring, that it's not entertaining, that it doesn't impress them. And I would argue that those people either are performing a version that sucks or they don't perform the effect. And that's because I perform the any card, any number effect more than any other effect out there. And it is an impossible coincidence. It impresses everyone. It is exactly the same as if you put a prediction out and you ask a spectator to make some mental choices and then you just give them the prediction and let them open it up and look at it. That is what the effect is, essentially. The problem is that there are a lot of versions out there which make the effect look terrible, because if you're performing a version that has a very convoluted procedure, by the end of the effect, the spectator forgets what you were doing. Or those versions where the magician is counting down to number 47, right? Well, the spectator is going to be bored out of their mind watching you count the cards. It's different when they're counting the cards. And that's why you should strive to look for a version where the spectator has a complete free choice of card and number, that you've done nothing. There's no open displacement of cards, and that the spectator can count down to their number. I think those are the most important criteria, because then it looks like a miracle. It really does. And Allan Ackerman's version, Anyone, Anywhere, does fit that. It really does. The issue that I've had with the memorized deck version, performing it for years, was the problem was that sometimes you have to do 2 steps of math, not just 1 step. And when that happens, you're stuck because there's this unnatural lag in the presentation and it feels like you're trying to figure something out. And that's not very good. That kind of ruins the effect. So I would argue that the last criteria would be that you would want to look for a version that feels effortless, right? And that's the reason I came up with my version of the any card, any number effect, because the memorized deck version, it requires too much mental gymnastics for me. I want a version that it feels natural and relaxed. That's what I wanted. I didn't want something where sometimes you're like sitting there trying to subtract a number from 52 in your head, like it just muddies the waters. It really does. And that's why I would argue to you guys, in my own, my own best advice to you is that you should look for a version that feels effortless. And I'm going to give you guys an example. I'm going to show you what I mean, because I don't mean that you have to move lightning fast. What I mean is, let me show you what I mean. Hey chat, can you name a number from 1 to 52 for us?
Let's go with the number 9 this time.
All right, can you name any playing card for me?
Let's go with the Ace of Diamonds this time.
Ace of Diamonds, very good. So I have all the time in the world here to pick up the deck, do what I need to do. And you guys see that what does this take, like 2 seconds? That's all it took, right? That's all it took, just 2 seconds. And now I can just simply give the person the cards and tell them to deal down to number 9. That feels like I've done nothing, right? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Here you go. So you could see that that's how you want to do in any card, any number. A version that feels like this. That feels like I've done nothing. I did nothing. Chat, what did you think?
I think that was absolutely seamless.
Anyway, so that's the reason why I say this to you guys. And that's the reason why I came up with my own version of the effect, because I need something that every single time I perform it, it looks like that. Every single time. And, these types of any card, any number effects, they're going to take practice. My version, the memorized deck version, they're all going to take practice. But if you are interested in learning the effect for real and you want to perform a real miracle for people, then I would recommend that you look for a version that meets this type of criteria. And Allan Ackerman's effect, Anyone, Anywhere, it really is very close to it, because really, other than the difficult math, it really does meet the criteria. So if you're very good at math, you may want to check it out. Again, I would say it's advanced card magic because you have to dominate a memorized deck as well. So let's just go over briefly the other effects at the end of the book so I can mention them to you because they are variations on this theme. And honestly, I don't know why he put them in the book because there are other effects of his that are so much better that he should have put in the book instead that I can just think of off the top of my head. But I'm just going to run through these for you guys and tell you why I don't like any of them. So the first one out of these other ones is called the Indicator. And this uses 2 decks where the spectator will cut 1 deck and the card they cut to the values, the number they use. So basically you're using a second deck to force the number. I don't really like that. There's a couple of handles of it he gives you there. Then there's a version he calls Another Anyone Anywhere. And in that version, you're going to be using an index with business cards in your pocket where you're going to be taking out a business card that has, countdown to this number. I don't like that at all because again, you're using extra stuff that there's no reason for that. The next version here is called a diced card at any number, and this may be almost the worst version out there because you're using a gaffed match box with dice in it and it relies on an old dice force. I don't think any of you would ever use it. Again, that's why I recommend that you just stay away from that. And then finally, we have what I consider to be the absolute worst card at any number effect, which is called Another Card at Any Number. And that effect, you need 9 decks of cards to make 1 gaff deck. And the spectator's selection is very restricted because you do one of those tight fans and have them think of a card. And then when they name their number, you have to do a calculation and you have to openly display some cards. So you can see all the reasons why I think it's a terrible effect. And I would never use it and neither would you. I don't know why Allan Ackerman even included it in the book. I think he just wanted the last chapter to really be about card at any number or any card at any number. But the truth is he should have just included his any card at any number effect, anyone, anywhere, and then maybe even included another effect or 2 from his repertoire because there's a number of other effects of his that were really good that were not in either of these books. Anyway, that's the last chapter. I'm going to give you guys some final thoughts now. Well, I hope that you guys have found this review helpful to you. And as I mentioned in the first review on this book, if you are into card magic, I think that you're going to find a lot of good stuff in these books. They are well worth the money I paid for them. And as I told you guys in the first review, that this was my best magic purchase last year. I got more value out of my money for these books than anything else I bought last year. As usual, if you have any questions or comments, just leave them for me below. Thanks so much, guys, for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next review.